Most people feel suffering. They want to reject life more. They want to reject their medical field more.
Mm-hmm.
They want to reject experience more.
Mm-hmm.
So if your investigation leads you to question and understand your own suffering, then it should not lead you away from life, away from relationship, but lead you to be able to be in it. So most people, when they're disappointed in life, shut down,
Mm-hmm.
become more separate, and argue more for separation as the real way to be here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that leads to a lack of investigation,
Confusion.
depression, sadness, sorrow. So if your investigation leads to all those emotions, then it's not really investigation. When people try to think over what they can do that's better for them,
Mm-hmm.
that will move them further along in growth, I don't think they can really go wrong with that, if it's with growth in mind.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just with somehow trying to figure out how you can have more pleasure
Mm-hmm.
and avoid suffering, you're never going to figure that out.
Yeah.
This is not possible. But if you want to look at your suffering and you want to make sense of it, and you want to do that, you want to investigate that so you can grow in your capacity to be here as a loving being,
Mm-hmm.
or to be happy already, then that will lead to good results. Everyone should talk to themselves. That's the way you talk to your intelligence, or the true guru, or
Mm-hmm.
the inner guru. That's the way you do.
Mm-hmm.
And Adida himself would welcome if anybody talked to him inwardly.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of talking to your own mind, you could say, my true intelligence is the guru, is Adida, and you can talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get real answers. I guarantee it. But you might. They won't help your seeking along.
No.
They won't fulfill you.
No.
They will grow you.
Yeah.
And so if you're willing to be grown,
Mm-hmm.
then you will get the real answers. The intelligence will come forward and give you the real answers.
I know when it feels like a real answer, because I'm sometimes pushed towards the hardest thing.
Yeah, that happens.
It's like, oh.
The least likely thing you want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just
I
came
think
up.
you can trust yourself. I think that's the beginning of true conviction towards your self-realization,
Mm-hmm.
that you can trust yourself. Does
Yeah.
anybody feel they can't trust themselves?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of confusion for the modern day person or ego to really
Mm-hmm.
talk to themselves for their own sake of their own growth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like everybody can talk to themselves for the sake of wanting to somehow manage getting the perfect pleasure and avoid all suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and keep strategizing how to do that. But I think you get to a certain age, you realize you're going to suffer this suffering and this pleasure, and they alternate, or they come and go, and some of them are your fault and some of them aren't your fault, and right, you figure that part out. So
Yeah.
that capacity to be able to really inquire
Mm-hmm.
in life and with yourself is, you're the vehicle of investigation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't allow yourself to do it, to have that talking to with yourself, and not have any conviction that your true self is there with your confused self
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to answer it, and they're not really split,
Yeah.
but it only seems when you're suffering that they're split.
Yeah.
So that's why you need to investigate that.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you say, well, why am I suffering? Is this suffering necessary? Or do I have to suffer?
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of those answers are, yes, you have to suffer. Everybody has to suffer.
Yeah.
Suffering is a part of life, and we have to make sense of it. When you walk into a room and there's other people there, whether you know them or not,
Mm-hmm.
they've already been involved in some head idea.
Yeah.
And they're not here just to see you and come into the room and be with you.
Mm-hmm.
They're here with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody walks into a room and you go, what's the right script?
Exactly.
What's going
Yeah.
on in this
Yeah.
room? What are people going to do in this room?
Yeah.
And how am I going to respond to that? Because,
Yeah.
and the more you're aware that everybody is carrying a script in,
Mm-hmm.
the more you're aware that, you're going to be called on to participate in something you have no idea about.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes everybody nervous
Yeah.
about everybody.
Yeah.
But if everybody came into the room and said, I'm coming into the room and Mike's here, and I'm coming to say hi to Mike and acknowledge Mike as a person that I'm connected to.
Yeah.
If everybody came into every room, whether it was strangers or intimate ones, and brought that kind of attention into the room, then none of the scripts would be necessary. It would be all spontaneously relating in a way that people would move towards enjoyment and acceptance and felt love. But everybody's coming into a room with this whole bunch of stuff. Like she comes in the room, you don't sense all that, right?
No.
She says, hi.
Everybody's upside down.
Yeah, so that's why it's always refreshing to look at a baby, because you don't sense that. But you can go to your job and you come in and you see your boss perhaps talking to two other guys. She goes, okay,
Yeah.
something's going on. Okay, I don't know what it is, and I'm not in on it. So what do I say? What do I do?
Yeah.
Are they
So-
talking about me?
Are they talking about me?
They must be talking.
And you can go in and say, well, what's up, guys? What is everybody talking about? You know. So I think we have a discomfort with others and a discomfort with ourselves because there's so many scripts going on that have to do with searching to get happy, to getting fulfilled, to move in a way that's going to be fulfilling and avoid suffering. And so we're always looking for that scenario.
Yeah.
And actually, experience does have suffering and it does have pleasure, but that's not actually what's happening. You go into the room. You ever stand outside, say you're walking on a trail, and you just stop and you just look at the sky and you look at the trees and you look at the grasses and the wind blowing and you hear the birds and you just stop everything and you're just right there present in all of it. You ever do that? Well, that's what's always really happening. But no one notices that's what's really happening. Everybody thinks, well, what's happening?
All the internal stuff.
The internal stuff is what people think is really real, right, Pat? You've always made that idea. And that the external stuff is just superficial, right?
It's what you think about it, as opposed to it.
Yeah. So what if you were to actually enter into relationship, into every room you walked into, every person that was in, you acknowledged all of it and stopped and just said, oh, this is creation, creating right now. This is it. And you would find that almost everywhere in every situation you're in, it's not threatening. There's nothing going on that's bad or negative. Plus, there's nothing going on that's here to give you attention to fulfill some kind of idea you have. But in it of itself, it's actually happy and pleasurable and good. So people feel that when they walk out in nature. You stop and you go, oh, all this is occurring and I didn't do anything about it. I don't have to make it happen. I don't have to stop it from happening. It's all here. Like it's the original TV with none of the bad plot lines, you know, or the characters that are inflicted. It's just birds singing, sun shining, nothing is happening. But no one ever notices that nothing is happening.
Yeah.
That existence itself is already okay. That you don't have to do anything or add anything to it. So the investigation is mostly why you adding everything to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first investigation is being in satsang all the time, right? And if you leave satsang, recognizing that you left it. So satsang is being in communion with yourself as everything,
Yeah.
as everyone, as the supreme, only one who is the sacred one.
Yeah.
That's the real. So the real sadhana is always, you know, acknowledging and staying there. And when you find yourself leaving it, you begin to question, investigate why you left it. So say you're walking along and you stop and you go, oh, all this is arising. And it's all arising wonderfully as existence is already the case, happiness. Oh, great. And then the next thing, you start getting mad at something you're thinking about. You get really mad.
Yeah.
But that thing's not actually really happening to you. You're just thinking about it and you're getting really mad.
That's the investigative
Yeah.
tidbit.
Yeah.
That's the blip on the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a second ago, you were just noticing existence,
Mm-hmm.
noticing the non-disturbance of it, noticing that it is all rising
Mm-hmm.
in a wonderful field, a related field of already happy. And then next second, you're in your mind, you're being really mad at something.
Yeah.
So the investigation would be, why am I doing this
Why am I
now?
doing this? Why is it worth it?
Yeah.
Who
Why
do I
is it
think
worth-
I am in this moment?
Yeah.
You know.
But mostly who you think you are comes from what other people tell you.
Yeah.
Mm.
And when they tell you, you can't even figure out the script they got for you. You're like,
What movie is this?
I'm that guy? What? They
Yeah.
think I'm her? What?
Yeah.
You're like, huh?
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody wants you to be something specific instead of that you are not.
Mm-hmm.
That you're just part of all the flow of what is arising.
Mm-hmm.
You're not something set.
Mhm.
You've never been set. Just because you can think a thought doesn't mean you're set as that thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because that thought comes and goes. So the only thing you are actually is that moment of already happy, of recognizing everything as the sacred, and that you are that sacred. Everything's arising out of you, you're arising in everything. There's non-separation from anything. It's only in your thinking that you leave that. So everyone's experienced enlightenment for like a few seconds here and there. If you add it all up, maybe you get to 2 minutes. But you don't get it long enough to actually live a whole life of it. Yeah. So the investigation is always, why did I leave it?
Yeah.
But you always have to remember what? What is the truth first?
Mm-hmm.
That you are
Mm-hmm.
who you are.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not a separate one trying to find yourself to be happy. So if you stay longer in that moment by not running away from it, by not doing the ego thing,
Mm-hmm.
then what happens is you just stay there, and it's pretty good here. I wouldn't recommend leaving.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend living a life without being here,
Yeah.
because you never get to be here otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So since the awakening in 1985, I've been here many years, and I've experienced all suffering and pleasure, but also incredible depth of beauty of what can be here.
Mm.
And I mean I can see an acorn, I think that's the most amazing, beautiful thing. And somebody just goes by and kicks it out of the way. And I'm like, oh, that acorn. I can just stop and look at anything and go, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel all the time
Yeah.
about life and what appears in life. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You don't have to be disassociated from it
Mm-hmm.
to be enlightened or be a spiritual aspirant.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm noticing it as a unifying field of love. I'm not noticing it as a separate other one.
Mm-hmm.
That somehow I want to possess or own for my pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
or it's going to take something away from me that I don't want to give it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you always stay like really naive and innocent as a child, and when you're investigating or being contracted in the ego away from this,
Mm-hmm.
it's a pretty clever personality there. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like a lot of layers of judgment
Mhm.
that are pretty harsh about everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like a lot of layers of
Yeah.
reasons and resentments and
Yeah.
why you can't like this person or this did in 1975 and I don't remember any of that. I just see the next thing and I go, oh, a blueberry. I don't know why. Maybe it's just a sign of I'm a moron or something. I'm just a happy one anyways. But I don't
Your
know.
capacity to be
Yeah.
so taken by life, and
So all the negative thinking and thoughts, the investigator is your heart saying, I'm not buying this.
Yeah.
Let's look at this. Because whenever you look at something that doesn't work,
Mhm.
your conclusion is, don't do this.
Yeah.
And whenever something does work, your conclusion is, I want to do more of this.
Mhm.
So the more your investigation, takes you away from all the things you don't want to meditate on,
Mhm.
all the things that are a false reality,
Mhm.
then, you can experience the simple happiness,
Mhm.
simple beauty of everything.
Mhm.
You never get to see. The spiritual life is so great because you get undone. You don't keep gaining,
Yeah.
and get better and better. You're getting undone
Yeah.
of the seeking of being away from this simple, happy state.
Mhm.
So you don't have a sense of achievement on it. Because in life, you keep doing art, you get better, and you look at the stuff you did earlier on, and you go, ooh, not that good. And now this is a lot better. You get a sense of that. But the spiritual life is the only thing you don't have a sense of, and that means that you are progressing.
Mhm. Yeah.
You are going deeper. The less sense you have of your achievement.
Mhm. Mhm.
So how many times do you have to do something that you think is going to work? Like you say, oh, I'm going to do this, and say you do it 5 times, 10 times, 20 or 30 or 50 or 200, and it never works out, and then you get to the place and say, that just doesn't work. I don't know, but each person is different, how they learn. So it might take you many, many times. I don't know. It's up to you,
Mhm.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a while. Even though you have bad results, it still takes a while sometimes to say,
Enough's enough.
I have enough's enough.
Yeah.
And so I think in a practice, and why sadhana is a movement towards that, because it'll take a while before you say, ego, enough.
Yeah.
I'm not seeking for happiness. I'm staying here in satsang as happiness.
Mhm.
When I leave to find happiness, I'm not doing that. I'm recognizing that and releasing that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, it might take a lifetime of trying to do sadhana before you get to the place where you actually go, oh, God, I got it now.
It's so worth it.
So you turn to page
Yeah.
where you've got something. And once you turn that page, whatever you did before and had bad results and had discomfort from and suffering from, that's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can do this whole sadhana your whole life and never get anywhere. And now you're 98 and you have 2 days to live. And you wake up on the second to last day and go, oh my God, I really get it now.
The check's in the mailbox.
Yes, you can die enlightened then.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, but it's up to that one point.
Yeah.
You have to get there.
Mhm.
So that's why you try to stay in the room. Stay in the room with your gurus, stay in the room of the practice, and stay in the room of being the investigator, stay in the room with the circle. All the things that aid you.
Yeah.
You have to love your own authority. You have to say, yes, I know I'm true.
Mhm.
Yes, I am. And I'm going to realize this completely.
Mhm.
I'm going to stay true.
Mhm.
And so whatever comes up that negates that.
Mhm.
So these little voices and these little tricks of mind, they're just another little trick. They're not actually another you that's coming up to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
Because who are you? You're the guy
The investigator.
that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the one that wants to realize the depth of truth.
Mhm.
That's who you are.
Yeah.
You're not somebody else. You're not the doubter, the guy who just wants to hang in there, the guy who's just waiting to get his inheritance.
Mhm.
You're not that guy.
Yeah.
That's just a trick of the mind.
Yeah.
That's just another voice that can come up. It's the job and desire and destiny of every living creature and being to self-realize. Right? That's what every lifetime is for. That's what everyone's on the road for. You're going to get there sooner or later. Adidas said, pay me now, pay me later. Right?
Yeah.
You're going to get there. Just remember,
Mhm.
the mind that says, well, what right do you have to investigate, or what you think you're thinking about, or whatever. That's just another trick of the mind. That it's not actually the investigator.
Yeah.
You have every right to investigate, every right to go deeper, every right to be true, that you are the true one,
Mhm.
but you haven't realized it with any depth yet.
Mhm.
As it goes deeper and
Mhm.
fuller, you'll experience it in such a way that when those little voices come up, they'll just seem like,
Yeah.
just background noise. They won't seem like anything. The mind is just a bunch of negative crap, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
There's
For most
nothing-
people, when I walk around, I don't really have thoughts, and like I do end up just standing there and looking around and happy at times, and I don't know, I mean, nothing seems important except, just being happy. Because mostly I spend my days by myself doing art or whatever, and then when I come in contact with mostly my circle, but sometimes other people, it's just all the ego game being played. And with my circle, I could say, don't play that game. Just be happy with me now. And most of you stop it and are just happy with me. But, it's just how it is. So, but when you get to a place where, the mind doesn't trouble you anymore with a negative self-image and negative self-thoughts, and, when do you get there? That's important.
Yeah.
Is when you're not tricked by it anymore. And I think Adida would call that hearing, when you're not tricked by the mind anymore. Yeah. You're not tricked by it. So at a certain point, you don't want to leave satsang.
Yeah.
And when you do, and the reasons come up why you should, you're not tricked anymore.
Yeah.
And you don't. So you catch it and you say, no, release that. Many years ago when I was with Master Rama, and he one night said, well, if anybody's into this, try it. He said, say no to past thoughts and future thoughts. So I said, I'm going to do that. So I went home and I practiced that. And so in a couple of days, I was very diligent with it. I didn't have any thoughts anymore. I was like, oh, this will lead you to samadhi. So just saying no to past or future thoughts can lead you to samadhi, to no thought state. But of course, you have to be okay about that.
Yeah.
That's the result of it. So I did the yoga, and next time I saw him, and began to meditate with him, and I went, because I wasn't saying yes to any thoughts, past or future, I began to experience, going into the light, to having no separation right away with him. And that would occur every time I saw him. And then one day, he said, did anybody do it? Anybody do it? He knew I did it, But yes, and everybody's like, what? I don't remember you saying that. That was everybody. Everybody was, I don't remember that. Did you say that? Did you recommend that? Did you remember that? So everything. So when you're ready, you're going to burn. You're going to burn. But how somebody else could say, I'm going to try that, and then they don't. As soon as they start thinking about the grandma, they're like, oh, it's been 3 hours later. Oh, I forgot. I'm not supposed to think about the past. Yeah. So I guess it's how ready and determined you are. It doesn't take willpower. It just takes like a really strong conviction. And that conviction is about your self-realization. I was with in a free das for a short time, actually in the going to the mountain of attention. I was sitting on a wall, and this woman came over and she said, hey, you're kind of cool. What's your name? And I said, da-da-da. And she said, my name is da-da-da. And she said, what are you here for? And I said, to wake up, to become enlightened. And she said, yeah? And then she started laughing and said, don't tell anybody that here.
I remember you telling me that story.
Yeah. But why not? Why can't all of you wake up? In fact, you all got to someday.
Yeah.
It's your destiny to move towards your awakening.
Yeah.
Every life of suffering is another step in that destiny. So you're going to arrive there. You can do it. I think when you come into life with a guru, this is an important life where you're ready to do it now. So when it comes where you cannot turn away from this understanding anymore, when you can't leave satsang to go investigate something, whether it's this terrible negative mind coming at you or some promise or some wonderful fulfillment, you can't leave it anymore. You don't want to leave it anymore. So I think wanting and can't has to be the same level. You want it so much and you can't leave it so much. It's like you're obsessed with your enlightenment. So you feel you're obsessed with your enlightenment?
I'm getting there.
All right. It's a very mad love affair. Yeah. Because there's no one who's going to win at the end. Yeah.
I mean, I'm intrigued by the process.
And the process is really beautiful. It's a beautiful art form, a beautiful dance or a beautiful sport. Yeah, it's really beautiful because, you just go along and you when you live in the awareness of your true self and you don't leave it to try to get happy or to be mad that you're not getting happy, you begin to experience life in a very rich way that someone who isn't living there can never experience it. You know, people just don't experience this. And everyone should. That should be what everybody's doing here, experiencing their enlightenment. People that are awake have relationships. They like maybe sports or art. They like all sorts of things, and things they don't like. But that doesn't mean that that creates ego for them, because they're not looking to get anything or get fulfilled by any of that. They're just enjoying it in the moment. The same way I can just look at an acorn on the road and go, oh, that's cool. Look at the acorn. You know, somebody could give me $1 million and say, oh, that's cool, $1 million. It doesn't implicate anything. But see, when someone gives you $1 million, now you think, what do I have to do that I don't really want to do? So they'll be happy with me because they gave me $1 million. So you get all that going on, see? So how do you live an experience without carrying all those assumptions? Because it's not just your assumption. It's whoever is with you's assumptions as well. So an enlightened person doesn't take on anybody else's assumptions anymore. They don't have any. They just accept everything in life. So any enlightened person's life could look any way. You could have 500 lovers. You could be celibate. You could go to fashion shows. You could sit in a temple all day. You could do pujas if you want. But I don't think enlightened people like to do spiritual rituals, because that's what sadhana was, you know. So they don't really care about that anymore. But you just live in life as it comes to you. You never know what's going to come, right? So I don't know what's going to come. You don't know what's going to come. But, you know, as amazing as the transmission already happy or the power of the guru is, I can't hold anybody to me at all at any time. So if you stay here, it's because that's the conviction of you for enlightenment. And you say, well, I got a good opportunity here. But I can't hold anybody to me at any time. I can't even hold my own body-mind here, you know. If it just keeps staying, I'm surprised. I'm surprised I got this old, you know. I'm still surprised at all of it. So if anybody shows up in the room, it's because your enlightenment, your conviction for your enlightenment drew you here. And whether it helps you to stay here, or it's up to you. But I certainly can't hold anybody here. I never did. So if you stay in the room, it's because you're doing everything to stay in the room. I'm not really doing anything. I'm not really holding you to being in the room with me. So that's why when you came here a couple of years ago, right, I always said to you, do whatever you want. That's your sadhana. Because that's all you're going to do anyway. There's no point in saying, do this, do that, because you're just going to do what you want to do. Right on, Santosha. So I just say, just do what you want to do. You want to come back again? You know, you want to stay and consider this with others in the room? It's up to you. So have the conviction for yourself that you decided all this, and that you want this, that you want your enlightenment. And whatever struggles you have about it, they're fine. There's no shame about any of that. It's just, you know, all that trickiness of the mind telling you, should I decide to be worldly? Should I decide for my enlightenment? One or the other? Which one is actually, you know, for me? Should, you know, none of that's true. So you're here because you have the conviction to be here. So own it. Own that everything that's happening is your choice. You designed it. And you can undesign it if you don't like something. It's all your power. And one of the biggest things about other egos is they don't want you to recognize your own power to choose. Right? Yeah. And everybody always gives it away, right? Yeah. You go and say, what does the boss want? What should I do? What should I do? I don't know. Well, the only way you learn is go ahead. You make the choice. You make the mistake. You learn from your mistakes. And the greatest, you know, learning here is the unlearning. So you're learning not to go and find happiness and experience, but to stay where you are and let your intuition that I'm good enough, I'm already happy, to go deeper. If you keep running away from it through experience, you're not going to find it. You're going to overlook it. Because it's just kind of a small voice right now. It's not a big conviction and big voice. But once it gets big, you know, my life, you know, I was married. I had 2 kids, Jerry and Ellie. So it's not I gave up anything. I just accepted what life brought me and worked with it as my yoga. So you can do it as your yoga, or you can do it as your means to try to get fulfilled and create, you know, a pleasurized life or a pleasurized existence or identity. You can do it as sadhana, whatever life brings you, because that's your sadhana. Whatever life brings you is your sadhana. It's not a ritual of sitting and meditating every day. It's this. What life brings you, accepting it, doing it as sadhana, and not as a search. That's the difference. So that's why I say just do whatever you want, because I was in spiritual communities. I was a Free Das. I was with Rama for a while. And my observation is that everybody just did what they wanted, and they pretended they were playing the role of a spiritual aspirant. Yeah. And what did everybody want? Well, some form of the search, right? Yeah. They're trying to get happy. So, you know, women have always blamed men for not loving well enough, and men have always blamed women for not loving well enough, because you're looking for that true love that you are in somebody else. Yeah. So you're not going to find it there. You have to find it as yourself. See, already happy doesn't have a lot of special me things attached to it. It doesn't make you special. It makes you the nothing that is the heart of everything. It's not a big, you know, whoopee recognition of that. You know. Everybody think, well, there was really an enlightened woman walking around. Wouldn't everybody see her, recognize her? No. No, some people can look as being the lover, you know, of the heart, loving the heart. Other people can look at it as being the investigator. But they're the same, because it comes from the recognition of being true. And what is love but the recognition of being true? And what is inquiry is the recognition of what is true. So self-contraction is when you leave it. But once you have that conviction that you are the truth, that you are what you're trying to realize, and all the voices that say you're not, that's what has to quiet down. Yeah. Has to get very quiet, because when you have no thoughts, there's not a sense that I'm a special me that's enlightened. What's there a sense of?
No one.
Just, it's not like a void of nothing,
Yeah. No.
and with no feeling.
It's
Yeah,
full, yeah.
it's just like beautiful. We don't have words to describe this, because all the words are for ego and for negative mind, you know, how to judge things.
Yeah.
So we don't have words. I guess we could invent them, but we don't have words to describe the natural state of already happy. You know, what does it feel like to just be already happy? It's not an emotional state. It's not a mental state. It's not a physical state. What is it?
It is.
It is. It does. Like, I haven't figured out how to describe it. When I do my writing, it's really difficult, because I describe it's like being trying to get something on the top shelf, and you almost can reach it, and you're on your tiptoes, and you don't want to get the chair, but you can't quite reach it. So I'm like, oh, how do I describe this? You know, I think you can point a way to it, but it's hard. There's no words yet, unless you make them up, and then you have to educate everybody what those words mean. But then that's difficult, because they translate it into ego words somehow.
Yeah.
You still have to use
Yeah.
other
They put it
words
back
to
in a
describe
box so
it
they
to
can-
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, well, that's the job of art, is always trying to take you out of that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, good night.
Thank you. Thank you.